Hello and welcome to Pop Along RC, the RC car channel dedicated to getting you guys on the track and racing RC cars. Today we got a fun little journey down to Stevenage where I was racing the Tamiya truck. Truck racing is typically run on a TT01 chassis. However, if you've seen our recent videos, you will know that this is a TT02. This is actually the TT0 Talbot, the car that beat Kev Talbot, and I've recently upgraded it with lots of alley parts. Now then, right at the beginning of that video, I did say if I was upgrading this car for racing, there was a few upgrades I would do, but I put everything on it. How did that get on the track? Well, let's go find out. Out on track for practice, and do you know what? The car did okay. It was a little bit loose on the back end, but there was no additive down on the carpet, grip was low, and I say it was sliding around all over the show. With the Fastrax shocks that I've put on there, I've fitted them as stock, and what happens with these shocks is they actually leave the chassis riding quite high. For indoor carpet racing, you want to be running ride height at about 5mm. I've just checked this and this is sitting at about 14 to 16mm, so it's very high, which means it's not going to perform quite as well through the turns. So, practice done, out for the first round, and do you know what? The car was doing okay. However, I clipped the side a few times and this is where the problem started. By clipping the sides, it knocks the wheel and the steering was locking in position, so it was taking the wheels were turning further than they should do and the steering was locking. Happened about 4 times. I lost quite a bit of time because obviously the marshal had to marshal the car, then they had to correct the servo and then put it back on the track. So I think I managed about 24 laps in the first round, which is pretty bad. So with the new alley parts that I've put on the car, they would be absolutely ideal on a drift car, for example, because they allow the steering angle to be so extreme. A little bit of an issue in the first round, and that is that if you touch the side and it pushes the wheel in, this pops across and it actually locks the steering, because these parts, they look very nice, they're a little bit better shape. However, they've got rid of one of the features on the original parts, and that are these massive chunky ugly bits that stick out. They actually have a purpose. What they do is they stop the car from oversteering. If you turn too tight, these plastic bits touch the plastic bits that stick out of the arms and it stops the turning oversteering. Whereas on this car there is nothing to stop this ending up all the way under there. So what was happening is I was clipping the side, it was turning the steering in and it was actually going even further in than it's going at the moment, and locking up the steering. So that was an issue. I think it happened 4 times in the last round. So I'm trying to have a think about what I can switch out, ready for the next round. So I had a dilemma on my hands. Obviously I've got the alley stuff. It was running well, but if I crashed, I run the risk of the steering going too far and then I lose a lot of time. So I made the choice to change back some of the components. On taking out the front screws at the front of the car, I realised the quickest way to do it was to replace the lower arms, because there was minimal screws that I had to actually take out for me to remove those completely. It was a bit of a fiddly job. However, I didn't stress about it. I took my time because I knew that I had in the bank the TT01. Now this is my TT01 that I have been running over the last couple of years. It's my indoor carpet car and it is set up perfectly for touring cars indoors. So I thought, chuck a set of truck wheels on it, chuck a truck body on it, and we're good to go. How wrong was I? That car is set up to turn on a sixpence. However, with the truck tyres and the truck shell, it just rolled over. So I spent qualifying 2 on my side, on my roof. The car obviously is geared up as I would gear it for touring car racing, so it was a lot quicker. With the TT02, I'm still running the stock gearing. So that was 2 qualifiers, basically ruined. 24 laps I think for both. We were getting 4 qualifiers and top 2 count. So I still have got time to turn it around, but not a lot of time. So back to the TT02. These cars are notorious for having sloppy steering, and actually Emily, who was the fastest by far on the day, her steering wasn't too dissimilar to how this looks here. What that does do actually is, because there's so much flex in the steering, if you do crash, that flex kind of absorbs, and that slop absorbs the impact, so you're not going to be breaking parts on the car. In order to counter the grip roll, I did cake on a lot of super glue on my front tyres. I actually went up onto the actual tyre edge as well to really minimise grip roll, and it seemed to do the trick. So I did start to find a little bit of pace in the next 2 rounds and qualified 6th in the A final, which meant I was in with a chance and anything could happen. So my demons hit yet again. First lap, first turn, and I was clipped and put over the barrier, which meant I was last. And I had a lot of work to do. So as you can see here, I have worked my way back into the race, and with this little mistake in front of me now puts me up into 3rd place. I am racing up against a car that is far quicker than me in a straight line, but I am in 3rd place, which means I have track position and I do not have to get out of the way. So I'm trying my hardest to stick with the racing line, which means if he wants to get past me, he needs to come off the racing line, go the long way round. I was trying to keep the turns as tight as possible, not allow there to be any room up the inside. Driving extremely defensive, but he was keeping me honest, and I was really having to sort of test myself. There was back markers and there was traffic getting in the way, but I was managed to sort of negotiate the back markers, and we had a few little love taps as we went round. There was some sharing of paint, but I managed to hold him off and managed to get 3rd place in the first leg of the A final, which I was surprised by and very pleased. So no changes made for the next round, and it was back out for the 2nd leg. However, 2nd leg was a reverse grid and a reverse track, which made it very, very interesting. Unfortunately for me, I was caught out by the fact that they'd changed the shape of the sweeper at the end of the straight, which is now at the beginning of the straight. So when I was kind of on autopilot at the end of the first lap, the apex wasn't where I was used to it being, and I clipped the inside curb, which bounced me out to the outside, and this meant yet again I was at the back. There was a couple of guys who did have to drop out, which meant it improved my chances of doing well in this race because we were down 2 drivers. That being said though, I had my work cut out, but yet again had some fantastic racing on the track. Malcolm, who's featured on the channel several times, was giving me a run for my money, and he was definitely the faster car in the 2nd leg of racing. But I did manage to get myself again back up to 3rd place, which meant I had 2/3. And surprisingly, overall, that means I ended up 2nd, which is, well, it surprised me. The TT02, first outing up against some very seasoned TT01s. Now, I do have to say, I definitely wasn't the best driver out there. I definitely didn't have the best car, and it was more a case of circumstances. So there was 2 guys that had to leave early, which meant they missed out on the 2nd leg. So I would have probably sat 4th or 5th overall, which again is not too bad out of, I think there was 14 trucks. So I was definitely towards the top end by the end of the day, but it took a little bit of graft. Those of you that have buy a Tamiya TT01, TT02, a truck or anything like that, if you expect to sort of turn up at the track first run and to be winning races, It's not going to happen. The thing is, there's lots of little secrets about these cars, little cheats, well, not cheats, little bends of the rules, little things that you can do to get the ultimate performance out of these cars. What I'm hoping to do in the coming weeks is to do a video about how to make this a better racer, because there are a lot of things that I can change with this car. If I am going to sort of continue my journey with the TT02 truck racing, there are definitely some racier hop-ups that I can do to this car to make me a little bit more competitive. So motors that everyone was running, they were running a choice of the sports tune motor, the torque tune motor, or the preferred motor, which was the Core 21. I didn't realise, I completely forgot, I'm still running the torque tune motor in this, so there's definitely a little bit more performance to be had if I go up to the Core 21, because it is a slightly quicker motor, a slightly cheaper motor, but it also has a fan in it, so it's a slightly cooler motor, which means you don't lose performance when the motor gets too hot. Tyres wise, I'm really happy with the grip. At Stevenage, we've got the MR33 additive, which is the only additive you're allowed to use at Stevenage. So what have I learnt from this? I've learnt that my touring car, which handles amazingly as a touring car, does not automatically make a good truck. I've also learnt a few little lessons about sort of driving style as well. In the first few races, I was definitely driving the car too aggressively. However, by the time I got to the final, I was driving it a lot more like I would drive my fronties. Trying to carry as much speed as possible, trying to make the curves as wide as possible, so you're not trying to make tight turns, because these cars do not do tight turns. They like to roll over when they get to that point. So what can I say about Indoor Raceway Stevenage? I want to say a massive thank you to everyone there. You made me feel really welcome. It was a great event, and free pizza as well. I'm blown away by the pizza. The pizza was delicious, the racing was close, really friendly atmosphere, great for beginner drivers, families as well. It was just a really pleasant day. They are going to be doing a few of these every year. The next one, I believe, is going to be in December. I'm going to look at penciling that one in for sure, because I do need to get this truck out again in the future. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video about the Tamiya truck racing. Looking forward to going again. It is a great fun racing format, and I can't wait to get out and have a blast yet again. So please like, subscribe, hit the old ding dong bell, and hopefully we will see you trackside soon.